Hello, Chair. We're ready to start whenever you're ready.
I am ready. I was going to try and be there, but unfortunately came down with a cold, so kind of limits my attendance. Well, now I'd like to call the meeting to order. And do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do. I can state who's in attendance currently. We have Councillor Olson. We have Mr. Lavelle just walked in, I believe. We have yourself, the chair. We have Ms. Hudson and Councillor Grove and Ms. Seaman. And then we have Mr. Saltaire online and yeah, yourself.
Thank you very much. The agenda is, I have to go find my agenda. Just give me a moment here. Or if you would, what is the first item on the agenda? Call the meeting to order. Minutes from the last meeting, which I believe were.
We just need approval of the agenda first.
Oh, okay. Call for approval of the agenda, please. So moved by Mark. Seconded by.
Councillor Grove.
Thank you.
Could I ask the clerk to clarify that who's the other councillor in the room?
Councillor Olson and Councillor Grove.
Grove, thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Having approved the agenda, I think we have to approve the minutes from a meeting of a year ago. Minutes have been circulated. I ask for a motion to approve the minutes as circulated.
Yeah, Ms. Hudson and Ms. Seaman.
Thank you. Any comments on the minutes?
None.
All in favor of approving the minutes?
It's approved unanimously. Next is public participation. We don't have anyone from the public in attendance today. So the next item is activity reports from members.
Any activity reports from members?
Yes, so when you're ready to speak, just turn on your mic and we'll just try really hard to take turns and be respectful of those that are speaking. So I have to keep my finger on the button while I talk?
No.
Oh, okay. So
red, you're good. You're talking live.
Hello, this is Jenny Seaman. So I have a couple of small announcements from me personally. First is that while I was employed at Royal Roads University as the archivist, I have since moved jobs and I'm now at Craig Derrick, still very much connected with Dunsmuir family history and Hatley Park's history. And so that's still very much a part of the work that I do. So I hope that that's enough to justify my continued presence on the Colwood Heritage Commission, but my job position has changed. And the other update I wanted to bring to the commission is that as per the minutes last year, I went to visit the Colwood house in England, the original Colwood house that belonged to Captain Langford. And I met the owner and she toured me around the house and it was a wonderful day and I was very appreciative. And she has since sent me the book that she's written on the history of her house. And this is a copy for the city of Colwood to keep. So I present that to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Any other reports?
Well, I'd like to introduce myself or be introduced to others here because I know Jenny. That's about it, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Thank you. And anything else? Mark, anything?
I don't have a clue who's in the room, and I've been on committees for 40 years. So please introduce me, or I'll introduce myself. Thank you.
That was going to be my suggestion, Chair, is that we should, as there are new members to the committee that I've noticed on the letterhead, perhaps we should do a round of introductions so as to get acquainted. And I gather that those attendants can only be seen on camera when they speak. Is that correct?
We can see you as long as your video camera is on.
Correct. But if I can only see whoever is speaking, is that correct?
Oh, yes, in chambers, correct. Yes.
Yeah. So that's a disadvantage for us right now. So, Chair, do you agree that perhaps we should do a round of introductions?
Certainly, I think that's a great idea, Mark. And with the permission of the commission, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Ken Johnson. I reside in Colwood and have been a member of this Heritage Commission for the past 3 or 4 years, having taken on the chairmanship last year due to the resignation of Richard Lindsay. I've been involved in heritage conservation in Greater Victoria now for 25 or so years. I'm the president of the Hallmark Heritage Society, and we recently had a big awards ceremony held at Wentworth Villa, which was very successful, giving awards to heritage conservation projects throughout Greater Victoria. And I'm now retiring from the Hallmark Society after 12 years as president. So another 4 or 5 months, I won't have that duty. The Hallmark Society are the caretakers of the Craigflower Schoolhouse. And most of that work falls to me, and I'll continue that work till I can't crawl down the hill anymore. Thank you. Mark, you next.
Thank you, Chair. That was very well spoken. I'm Mark Salter, born and raised in Victoria, work as a First Nations consultant. I am not First Nations myself. I am of Irish descent. But in the greetings of Tessametsa, which is where we are located in the city of Colwood, it's the Kwangan greeting would come to order as in Haishka Osiam Nishkwelakwa, greetings to all honored guests. And so by way of introduction, that's the work I do currently. And take particular interest in the updates of the heritage report we're going to look at later. To that end, though, as I said, born and raised Victoria, spent 20 years back east working with the Haudenosaunee peoples of the Six Nations Reserve in Ontario, and then returned to Victoria and began work with the Songhees Nation. Been recognized by the Capital Regional District for my work in environmental supports, and was given the EcoStar Award in 2011. And to that end, as part of that, my other work as an organic master gardener, trained at Railroads, was to be recognized by the Lieutenant Governor for conservation and restoration work on the Lower Island. So that's my perspective as when it comes to heritage. I'm very much into living heritage of our fair city, and there's plenty to be honored and considered. And also honored to be able to assist in any kind of clarification of viewpoints to make sure that our First Peoples are represented as per this report's we're going to see later's reference to. And previously was on the commissions and the Township of Esquimalt as Environmental Advisory Committee to the Mayor and Council, as well as to the not quite a heritage advisory. We didn't quite have that, but we had our Building Advisory Committee for developments in the city. So that's a bit of my background and why I'm here. And I'm also a resident down here in Robeck.
Thank you, Mark. Kear Portres.
Hi, everyone. Kear Portres. I'm like Mark. I'm an Indigenous engagement consultant. I'm here working with Colwood on some agreement work that they're building relationships with Songhees, Esquimalt, and Chien. And I'm here to just give input as part of this, or give feedback depending on how you want to frame that. I'm Métis and Chinese, originally from Regina, Saskatchewan. I now call Victoria home. Been here for about 15 years. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. I see a Desiree Gibbons here.
Hi, everyone. I work with the City of Colwood as Planner 2 in the Development Services Department. I'm here to support Iain and the community planning team with the Indigenous Protocol Agreement. Just a little bit about my background. I went to school for Indigenous community planning, and I also have a mixed ancestry, Black and Indigenous from the Ucluelet First Nation. I'm happy to be supporting this work and would be happy to answer any questions that you have about the Indigenous Protocol Agreement project. Thank you.
And as I cannot see who is sitting at the council table, I'll have to turn that over to someone else, the recording secretary, perhaps.
All right, so if you just want to go around the table, start with Councillor Olson.
Okay, hi, my name is Misty Olson, for those of you that don't know me. I'm newly elected to the City of Colwood as councillor. I am brand new to this committee. I was born and raised in Victoria, and I've been living in Colwood here for 9 years. So I'm very much looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
I'm Don Lovell. I'm sitting beside Councillor Olson. I'm new to the committee, having sent in a resume. I'm interested particularly in the colonial history of Colwood from early settlement to probably mid-90s. I've been on Martin Sager's committee for the attempt to have Victoria and region designated as a UNESCO site. I was involved with the BC Afghanistan Memorial as the organizer for that parade, having served in the military for over 20 years, reserve and regular time. I first moved to Colwood in 1970 because I attended Royal Roads Military College and was forced to leave after 2 years to go to Kingston. But moved back to Victoria in 1990. I worked as the manager of campus planning and development for new buildings at the University of Victoria for 17 years. And finished off with the BC government, working on various projects throughout the province. I'm very pleased to be on the committee. Thanks for allowing me to participate. Look forward to working on any initiatives that may come up. Thank you.
My name is Sandra Hudson. I've been on this committee for 3 years, or although we haven't met for a year, but I've lived in the city of Colwood for 5 years. I found a husband here, so that was what made me move. I own a public relations firm. We specialize in arts and culture. When I saw the advertisement for this committee, initially I was interested because of it overlaps with a lot of my interests and the work of my clients. So I joined. I also do quite a bit of volunteer work in the not-for-profit sector, but in the social side, I'm currently on the board of Victoria Women's Transition House. I'm past chair of the Children's Health Foundation of Vancouver Island, and I'm past chair of the YWCA of Vancouver Island. I'm glad that I've gotten involved with something in Colwood.
Hello, I'm Councillor Grove, David Grove, and I started off in Victoria in 1988 studying classical piano performance at UVic. And of course, being a musician, studying classical musician, I had to make a living. I ended up in the food industry, of course, and found my love there. So in Ontario, for 12 years, I had bakery and a restaurant. We restored an 1863 building, and by restoration, I'm talking loosely. We got it up and running, and it was a beautiful thing, but I was always connected to that aspect of heritage. We moved then to Victoria, 95, we purchased Royal Bay Bakery. It was Scandia Bakery. Then we sold it 5 years ago. So here I am, I have time. And I understand that heritage, of course, is much more than old buildings, but we have that time history, but we also have many other aspects. The First Nations element, to me, I find absolutely fascinating. It's not nearly as visible in Ontario as here on the coast. And when I came here as a student, I was surprised myself to discover how fascinating and compelling that whole aspect of the coast is. And I'm looking forward to this group being able to work with that element. I'm not sure what that means. I don't know. I've met lots of friends in the Indigenous community, as now people I would call friends, and it just continues to develop. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we do here and all the good work we have potential to dig into. Thank you.
And I'm Jenny Seaman. I'm originally from the UK, but I've lived in Canada in various different provinces for the last 21 years. Most recently moving to Victoria in 7.5, almost 8 years ago now. As I mentioned before, I'm assistant curator at Craigdarroch Castle, having previously had a 20-year career in archives. So I've made the switch to the museum sector to have a new challenge. In addition to that, I'm also vice president of the Victoria Historical Society. And my reason for joining the commission is that I do have a deep love of local history and how that impacts community and community development. So I've really enjoyed the work of the commission over the last few years, and I look forward to continued participation. Thank you.
I'll just say quickly, I'm Gabrielle Witters. I am just helping with some of the technical aspects of the meeting today. We also have online Tiffany McDonald as our recording secretary, and I'll pass it over to the rest of staff that are here to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Gabrielle. So this is, hi, it's Iain here, Iain Bourhill, Director of Community Planning. I'm here to support the Commission's activities and we'll be presenting the first couple items on the agenda today. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nafiseh Rashidianfar. Originally from Iran, I moved to Canada, Victoria 5 years ago to attend Royal Roads. And I joined Colwood last year in 2022. I'm working as parks planner, and a big part of my job is liaising between the key partners for the pre-feasibility studies of National Urban Parks project. And that's the reason I'm attending and joining this committee today. Thank you.
That's everyone introduced, Chair.
Thank you very much. And certainly I welcome the new members to the committee and hope that over the next little while we get to know each other much better. I can only assume that by being on this committee, you consent to the sharing of email addresses. Is that correct?
I can't recall offhand if we have connected with everyone, but I believe in the past we had. But usually we ask people's consent first before we share emails.
Okay, well, if we are a group that believes in communication, then I certainly have no problem in sharing my email address.
And Chair, just a note, we are to review the terms of reference for our commission. Perhaps that's something we can address.
Okay, so we have that item on the agenda. Moving forward with the agenda then, what is the next item? Again, I haven't found my agenda.
Yes, so it's the Heritage Commission bylaw / terms of reference, which Iain will introduce, Mr. Bourhill.
Thanks, Gabrielle. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for this opportunity to speak to the terms of reference. We thought it would be a wise idea to go through the bylaw that establishes what this commission's all about and what council's charged it with in terms of activities and roles within the community. So I won't go through the whole bylaw. I trust that the members have taken a read, but I really wanted to emphasize the differences in this body It's a commission that functions under a bylaw. The facilitation of this body and the right for the city to strike it stems from provincial legislation, and its role is much greater than simply an advisory body. And I just wanted to kind of help commission members understand that you're able to undertake activities of a heritage nature. This is straight from the terms of reference, including
Chair, just a point of order. Iain, your screen went from the document to the web portal for this town, city of Colwood. So what I'm seeing is not what you were originally showing.
I'm gonna fix it here. I don't know what happened there.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks for that.
Is that showing all right for you?
Yes, it is now full screen.
Thank you. So as I was saying, the commission is able to undertake and support activities of heritage nature, including education activities, undertake heritage research, participate in heritage events, and undertake fundraising for heritage projects. The commission also has the opportunity to present an annual budget to Colwood. Currently, the 2023 budget that's bestowed to the commission by council that can be spent according to these activities outlined in the terms of reference are $2,500 for supplies and $8,000 for contracted services. So that's the commission's 2023 budget right now for those types of activities. And I'll just remind those members of the commission that were around back in 2020, there was a strategic planning document that was developed. And one of the actions that was highlighted was raising the profile of heritage conservation in Colwood. So that's something I just wanted to remind the commission of, and to state that staff are happy to facilitate opportunities for the commission to identify actions that they could undertake along the lines of these sections of the bylaw. Happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
I have a question.
Anyone can see me, so to call to me. My question is, when you talk about the $8,000 for contracted services, I know that we were using contractors quite a bit previously to do our report. Is that money that would be spent on continuing that report, which, as far as I know, remains unfinished?
Through the chair, and thank you for that question. That pot of money for the $8,000 is intended to be for activities that the commission decides to undertake outside of those projects that council has created separate line items for. That being said, if the commission chose to spend the money to support the development of a heritage strategy, that would be within your purview, but I believe its intention was to be separate from that project.
So a separate question then that comes to me from that question: is there money in the budget elsewhere to complete the heritage strategy?
Through the chair, yes, there's sufficient funds at the moment in terms of what administration feels is necessary to complete the document. That is, of course, pending the direction of council when we bring the draft forward.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't say, oh, here's a party over here for $8,000 and then find out that what we've been working on for 2 years, we can't finish because we spent the money on the party.
Chair, Mr. Salter has his hand up, so.
Thank you, Chair. Just Iain, on the subject of You use the word terms of reference. It's in the agenda as terms of reference, but nowhere in the document is the word terms of reference used. Should we make that a change?
Thank you for that question. I think we're using the term terms of reference colloquially just to describe what this bylaw intends to do, and in terms of giving the commission a set of guidelines and instructions as how to undertake its business. So certainly we can. I think it's just it's a matter of convenience that we're using that term to describe this document, but it is a bylaw.
That was my question. If there's any follow-up conversation, I'd like to entertain the prospect of motioning that the terms of reference be part of what this bylaw references, because in the line of work that we undertake with boards and commissions, that boards needs terms of reference to be held accountable to. This bylaw doesn't really hold that up into strong language. So if we call it terms of reference, we had to meet these expectations, we'd be more accountable, especially where there's budgets involved.
Don Lovell, I know I did a quick reading of the bylaw. I didn't note any requirement for a prescribed number of meetings per year. There's a description of meetings, but no set schedule nor a required number of meetings per year. Could you address that? Thanks.
Thank you for that question. There is a schedule that was set up at the outset of this latest, I guess, annual schedule of committee and commission meetings. Gabrielle, if you could remind me, is it every quarter or every 2 months? Yeah. So there is an official schedule that this commission abides by in terms of when meetings are brought forward. There have been occasions where there haven't been items to bring forward to the commission from administration, nor has there been items of business brought by the commission to the chair and administration to place on the agenda. And in some instances, meetings have been canceled. However, as I said, there is a set expectation for when these commissions will be held outside of this bylaw.
So that's an auxiliary question. I noticed that there was a preponderance of canceled meetings. And it seems to me if the bylaw doesn't state that there's a required 2 meetings, 1 meeting in a calendar year, the committee's in trouble, or the commission's in trouble. I just, November 22nd, November, September, July, May, March of 22nd were all canceled meetings. That's very serious in my opinion.
I just wanted to mention that on our meeting calendar, the Heritage Commission is set to occur the second Thursday bi-monthly at 2 p.m. As I understand it, it's on a kind of as needed basis when there's items to discuss. But that's up to the commission as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just, through the chair, mention that by all means, if commission members would like to bring items forward to a meeting, there's a process to facilitate that. And if there are items of business to address at an upcoming meeting, staff will facilitate the meeting to address those items.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I did try to signal this earlier, but may I request that we do a territorial acknowledgement, because I don't believe that that was done and that should have happened at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you.
If you wish, I don't have one prepared because it was not in the minutes. So does anyone have a territorial reg? Oh, okay, I'll recognize.
Mr. Chair, if you'd like, I can read the acknowledgement.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to acknowledge with respect that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen speaking people. We are honored to have the opportunity to build strong working relationships with the people of the Songhees and Esquimalt nations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My apologies. My mind is really clouded with this cold.
Chair, just to question a clarification of who wrote the introduction and is the author of such.
Through the chair, Mr. Salter, could you just repeat the question?
Just clarification. I've not heard that version. It's not what I've read on the City of Colwood's website. So I'm not sure. Is that the Commission's territorial acknowledgement?
Through the chair, I believe that's the official acknowledgement that's included in the agendas that are produced for all committees and council. I can respond to the Commission just in terms of clarifying that and provide input at an upcoming meeting or via an email.
Thank you for clarification, Ian. Back to the chair.
You're on mute, Mr. Johnson.
I'm sorry. Is there any further discussion regarding the agenda item on the bylaw?
Jenny Seaman, I think we need to address Mark's question of whether we need to include the word terms of reference in there in terms of how we hold ourselves accountable for what we achieve as a commission. I don't know if a bylaw, I think a bylaw is sufficient to do that. So I'm not sure if the word terms of reference holds us accountable as a board in a different way because we're a commission as part of the city. I'm not completely familiar with how government is structured, but it seems to me that a bylaw does hold us accountable as is.
Through the chair, I appreciate the reply. May I also?
Okay, Mr. Dark, yeah.
So to pick up on Don's point earlier, I believe it was Don spoke regarding meeting agendas, and it was addressed somewhat by the clerk. The bylaw indicates that 4.7 meetings of the commission shall be at the call of the chair. So the chair gets to choose from that perspective when and how meetings are held. If there's to be a schedule or calendar, that's then inconsistent with that statement. So the bylaw needs a little, I think, a little refreshment in that respect. And back to Don's point, if as we've seen the calendar with scheduled meetings, and that was certainly what I expected when I was selected and I was making plans for. So the inconsistent meeting schedule has been of concern. Not being fully versed with the powers of the chair, perhaps I could have made requests to meet regardless of this requests from the council, because I believe it's the chair's prerogative based on this. But I think that we should make ourselves accountable and use the word terms of reference and have have this issue of how we call our meetings addressed so that Dawn isn't feeling that we're being neglected or forgotten, and that we're also empowered to go forward and do the things, take on certain works with this budget that's been shared with us today, for example. So that'd be my concern. But I mean, and certainly having ourselves indicating here the sharing of and the swearing of emails might not be a bad thing to add to the bylaws, so people understand that that's also what's involved. That's my question.
Well, thank you, Mark. In order to change the bylaw, of course, it would have to go back through to council and lots of other things before it could be changed. We currently have meeting scheduled every 2 months. I've certainly received notice of meeting every 2 months. And then, as noted, subsequently, those meetings were canceled. I've always taken the assumption that there was nothing notable or worthy of calling a full meeting for. This is not an unusual practice. I've sat on heritage commissions in Victoria and Saanich, and although most of them seem to go every month, quite often they are canceled simply because there was nothing to be brought forward to the commission or the advisory panel. I'm going to turn this over to Colwood staff for discussion if they feel that the bylaw has to be changed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as was noted, the bi-monthly schedule sets up the opportunity for the commission to meet. If there are any members who wish to state to the chair or through staff to the chair that they would like to have a meeting held to discuss specific business, we're 100% able to facilitate that every 2 months or even have special meetings if necessary. So that is facilitated through the existing wording in the bylaw. And I would note that staff feel that the current wording is sufficient relative to the distinction of this document as it's providing the rules of the road essentially for this commission. The terms of reference, you know, I am partly potentially at fault is for conflating this bylaw and the terms of reference in terms of describing what this is. We feel that it's sufficient in terms of its content flowing from provincial legislation and the council's decision to enact the bylaw as written. And I would just highlight that the commission would have the ability to make a recommendation to council with respect to changes to this bylaw, but it would be their prerogative to make amendments to it.
Thank you, Iain. Any other comments before we move on?
I just have a suggestion. It's Sandra Hudson. Perhaps if members have items that they feel are forthcoming in the time frame prior to the regularly scheduled meetings, they could let the chair know that they have items so that the chair is aware and can alert staff that so that would prevent a meeting from being canceled if a member felt there was things to discuss. So I think that's one way we can handle that. I also am aware that some of the meetings that were canceled last year were canceled because we were unable to have quorum. So I think that we have to ensure that members take their responsibility to attend meetings. And I don't want to be anybody's babysitter, but just as an aside, some of the canceled meetings were because there was not quorum. So that's more for information for the new people. Thanks.
Chair, you're muted.
So I'd like to move on to the next item of the agenda, if I may. Let me just get this up here.
You're muted again. Chair, you're muted. Chair, you're on mute.
Am I still muted?
There we go.
Oh, good. So the next item on the agenda, Indigenous.
Your microphone is muted again. I don't know if you're maybe hitting a button or something on your computer. Chair, you're still muted.
There, is that better?
Yes.
Okay,
However, as soon as you move away to start talking, it goes off.
okay, well, it's on now. I can see the mic going.
Good.
Next item on the agenda is Heritage Strategy and Indigenous Protocol Development Project Update from Mr. Bourhill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as it's been over 1 year since administration presented the draft Colwood Heritage Strategy to the Heritage Commission, we thought it'd be a good time to update the commission and provide an assessment of next steps and our expected timelines. So the input that we received from the commission revolved around a desire to engage with local First Nations before returning with a revised draft heritage strategy. In the last year, a staff team led by Desiree Givens, Planner 2, and assisted by our consultant, Kear, have engaged with local First Nations to explore opportunities to strengthen relationships and better support collaboration with our Indigenous partners. Both Desiree and Kear, as you know, are here to help address any questions you may have on that work. And we have developed an understanding that before directly engaging on potential heritage strategy themes or content, foundational relationship building expressed through things like protocol agreements or memorandums of understanding is appropriate. That being said, preliminary heritage conservation directions that can inform policy development have been provided by local First Nations through this ongoing engagement. So we've been successful in having recent meetings with Chanu Chief and Councillor representatives, both with representatives of Colwood staff and Mayor and Council. We've had staff-to-staff meetings with the Songhees Nation, as well as some earlier engagements with Songhees Chief and Council on our waterfront stewardship plan that also touched on some heritage issues. And with respect to the Esquimalt Nation, we've had engagement with both the Chief and Council level staff through ongoing meetings and direct engagement with the Esquimalt Nation community members. It's too soon to provide a detailed summary of what we've heard. We are attempting to apply the principles of OCAP. So that's the First Nation principles around ownership and control, accessibility and possession that guides how collection of information from Indigenous communities is undertaken. We hope to be in a position to provide the results of engagement and a revised draft heritage strategy in the fall of this year or thereabouts. And with that, concludes my introduction of that item, and happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Thank you, Iain. Are there any questions?
It's Sandra Hudson. I have a question. So when this new information that you've been working on is obtained, will the consultant who is working on the heritage strategy then, or somebody else, I'm wanting to know, are we going to engage the same consultant to add that to the strategy to complete the document? Or is it going to be work given to somebody else? Is there a plan for how that information will be added? And I just wanted to also add, because I was just thinking about this when you were talking about it, that part of our from what I understood, our pause in meetings, amongst other things, was that we had done quite a bit of work on the draft heritage strategy. And we were waiting until those meetings could take place with local First Nations until the rest of the report could be done. So that is, Dawn, just one of the reasons why there was a pause. We've been working quite busily, I thought, on the report. So just as a bit of background. So did you get what my question was? When I messed it up with all that other stuff?
Thank you for that question through the chair. Yes, we will be in touch with the original consultants that worked on the strategy. However, administration is confident that the changes that will need to be made could be accomplished with either staff time or the consultant assistance that we have right now, either in the form of Mr. Portis's assistance or others that we're engaging with.
Thank you. Mark, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair. Just as I was acknowledging the confusion over the territorial acknowledgement, which is a top of our agenda as printed, as Iain indicated. The draft of this document, which I'm assuming is the same one we looked at last time, it does not reflect the same acknowledgement at the opening page. So if I understood what Iain said, this is still the original document, and even though there are some changes to it, it's not a complete redo of a draft. Is that right?
Thank you for that question through the chair. Yes, the document that's attached to the agenda is the exact same document that was presented to the commission back in May of last year.
So then the fact that there are no changes and things I noted before haven't been done, is that will come, they've been acknowledged as part of our recommendations from our minutes from last meeting, but these pictures will all be addressed and their appropriateness and so forth.
Thank you. Yes, through the chair, the draft that was attached was simply for reference. We would be bringing back a revised draft with a staff report that outlined the basis of any changes and the context that you'd need to understand the revised draft. Yeah.
So any comments that I have about the document now, some of the language, do you want us to draft some things to share with you, or do you want the commission to do such work? Because, and I thought we had done some of it. So again, some of the phrasings and some of the descriptions are rather, well, poorly written in some respects, and also not reflective of, I believe, what we agreed on as the current reality. So.
Thank you. And through the chair, yes, I have to say we had mixed feelings with respect to providing the draft as it stands on the agenda. It was simply there to provide the context as to why we're having this discussion. Since we had the meeting in May of last year, we have a good understanding, we think, of the thoughts that were provided by commission members at the previous meeting. So we will be taking those into consideration when we bring back the revised document.
And that point, just clarification through the chair, that when your work, the staff are done, you'll bring it back to this commission for review before it goes further? How will that, because one of the things we recommended was that draft be also viewed by the participating First Peoples, Kasamson, Songhees, and Sanawa.
Yes, thank you. And through the chair, the work that we're doing with the local First Nations is really broader than heritage matters. That being said, we are engaging on different issues that include things that could be valuable in a second draft heritage strategy. Our intention is to use the information that we're collecting through this process to inform the second draft. The next step then being to bring it to the Heritage Commission as a document that is very much draft and with the ask that it be considered for a next step, which includes engagement with Indigenous partners. But I should clarify that the work that we're doing is following best practices for respectful engagement, and that we wouldn't be putting forward information that wasn't already shared with the First Nations, so that we understood that they were comfortable with the way it was presented.
Through the chair, thank you, Iain. So in our recommendations that are outlined on our agenda, it says the options, the Heritage Commission may wish to consider the following options. We recommended that the Heritage Commission make a recommendation to Council, the draft Colwood Heritage Strategy be endorsed for referral to the Esquimalt, Songhees, and Skaanawas Nations for comment before seeking public input and stakeholder input. And that was our recommendation. So right now you've had for the first time some fulsome engagement with those communities, and that's very good to hear. I know it takes time, and you've done the right work by taking the time. However, I also heard someone saying about inputs and and so forth in some of the disclaimers in the conversation about this document. So there hasn't been any more public consultation on this document subsequent to your work with the nations. Is that right?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay. So then we are following our recommendations, and we're all in good places. That's good.
Thank you, Mark. Any other comments? Hearing none. Iain, do we need a motion or anything on you?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's simply presented for information.
Your microphone is muted, Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6.3. We have a Parks Planner update on Colwood partnership with Parks Canada.
Chair, through to the tech for the commission, the clerk, the same problem as before. The end made a switch over. We have the Colwood website now.
There we go. It looks like the right.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to present some updates about the Colwood partnership with Parks Canada to advance pre-feasibility studies of national urban parks today. So I start my presentation with providing a brief context of the project and today's presentation. The focus will be on the early exploratory of pre-feasibility stages. I would like to acknowledge that this project follows an Indigenous-led process, and later on I will discuss the 3 key projects that Colwood is working on. So about the National Urban Parks Initiative, I would like to give you a quick background. In 2021, Government of Canada has funded the creation of up to 6 national urban parks by 2025 through Urban Parks Program. And to accomplish this, Parks Canada has been collaborating with different partners, and it includes provincial and federal government, Indigenous government, and organizations and other partners to create a network of national urban parks in Canada's large urban centers. So having a quick look at the link that I provided in the presentation, Parks Canada has advanced National Urban Parks policy, which is proposed to be used to guide the designation, governance, and administration of the future national urban parks. In this policy, there are 3 core connected elements that they are identified, which includes conserving nature, connection people with nature, and advancing reconciliation with Indigenous people. Stated by Parks Canada through the same link that I shared, they are working with 6 candidate site partners to explore the potential national urban parks, and one of the sites is in Victoria Greater area of British Columbia. So as you see in the outline, there are 4 steps that they are identified by Parks Canada for for the process of the project. And the city and the partners are in the pre-feasibility studies, and we are engaging with our key partners, and we are exploring the possibility of the project. Also, we are trying to find out if the site is aligned with the program 3 core objectives, and if there is sufficient support through partners to move forward with the project. So as Parks Canada stated on their website again, the study area for Victoria case is stated as a Bourhill Lighthouse National Site and the surrounding area that is within the interest of Indigenous nation. But at this point, because of the pre-feasibility studies that we are doing, we don't have any defined boundary for the future national urban parks. So the city of Colwood is considered as one of the key partners of this project. And we are developing an ecosystem regeneration strategy for lands outside the national Bourhill National Site. Also, we are developing an active transportation and public transit pre-feasibility studies, as well as facilitating the engagement between the key partners and the stakeholders. Said that, we have 3 key projects that they are defined within the National Urban Parks Initiative for the city of Colwood. Ecosystem regeneration strategy, active transportation and public transit, pre-feasibility studies, and develop and implement engagement process strategy. For the ecosystem regeneration strategy, the project goal is a regenerated ecosystem through invasive species management and native species education, ensuring that this strategy will be ecologically effective, economically efficient, and socioculturally engaging. About the active transportation and public transit studies, our goal is to complete a study to assess the feasibility of having an active transportation network that directly connect to the potential future national urban parks and provide accessibility to the nature. And it's going to result in improved physical and mental health for the community and everyone visiting the area. Also, it will increase the vibrancy and prosperity of the community. And as the 3rd key project, our goal is to create a productive and ongoing positive culture for the partners, and within the future, it's going to be between the stakeholders as well. And partners and stakeholders' commitment for the National Urban Parks project. So in this case, the city role is to develop a strategy between the National Urban Parks project key partners and facilitate the engagement between the key partners and the stakeholders. So as I stated earlier in this presentation, we are in the exploratory and pre-feasibility studies. And as today, we have ongoing conversation with our partners. In the meantime, we have ongoing pre-feasibility studies that we are working with different consultants and moving forward with. This is a very exciting project for Colwood. It's at the very early stages right now, but there will be more to come, and there will be more news that we can share with the commission in the future. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any question if you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah, Jenny Seaman, I have a question. Thanks very much for that presentation. That sounds very exciting. Looking forward to hearing more about it. Do you envisage a role for the Heritage Commission as part of the public engagement with the national parks?
Thanks for the question. We do have a lot of engagement going on, and it's going to be in different stages. At this point, it's just through the partners. It will be in the future with the stakeholders, and eventually like with the public as well. So any input from this commission would be definitely helpful for the engagement that we'll be doing in the future.
Answer your question, Jenny?
Yes, I hope that we would be asked to consult when the time is right.
Mark, if you will.
Yes, thanks, Chair. To Speaker Nafiseh, you are a staff employee for Colwood, or are you with Parks Canada?
Thanks for that question. I'm city staff,
Okay.
but I'm liaising the conversation with Parks Canada.
Okay. And then second, so the slides, I may have missed it. My apologies, but can you confirm you when you answered the previous question, you said something to the effect of when we meet with the stakeholders versus the partners. Is that identified in one of the slides? Who is who?
Thanks for the question. Yes, it's going to be different partners and the stakeholders. I just give you a big picture of the partners that we have and the stakeholders that we have. Our partners will be Parks Canada and our Indigenous partners that will be eventually discussing all these subjects together. And at the end, when we are prepared, we share those with the stakeholders that they will be more like in the local level. And then we share the result and any deliverable that we have with them, and we will get their feedback from their perspective.
So just a clarification, and so the partners are Parks Canada, the local First Peoples, and then is the City of Colwood also then a partner?
That's correct.
And then second to that, which of the First Peoples that we've identified in the previous conversations actually are part of the partnership in this discussion?
Thanks for the question. I'm not quite sure if we can actually speak to that.
Mr. Chair, if I could jump in and help with the question. So we are working with Parks Canada at the same level as other partners, and they are managing direct engagement with our Indigenous partners. So we are aware of direct conversations with the Tamok Treaty Association, as well as Songhees and Esquimalt nations specifically. We understand that they will be providing more information on these discussions, but we are dependent on Parks Canada in sharing that knowledge as opposed to the city engaging on Parks Canada's behalf with First Nations. We really are looking at the engagement work that we're doing, focusing on stakeholders that are associated with the City of Colwood and not direct conversations with our Indigenous partners that's being handled by Parks Canada.
Okay, Chair, if I could, just to ask Iain one more specific reply.
Certainly.
So Iain, then we're using the word partners again, perhaps maybe not so succinctly. The City of Colwood is not sitting at the table as a partner with the local First Nations in the same conversation with Parks Canada. As a partner, we're not at that particular table. Is that correct?
Through the chair. So as our parks planner noted, we are at very early stages in the pre-feasibility stage. I believe there's an intention to have a partners table developed where we would have these types of project level discussions with Indigenous partners. At this stage, we're waiting for that preliminary work to be undertaken by Parks Canada, such that that would come to reality.
So this, to reply then, so this PowerPoint that has been shared with us is obviously then very small circulation. Obviously, you're not doing any outside engagements. This is done for our benefit to understand what's going on behalf of Colwood. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Sorry, I took over.
No, that's great. Fine.
Thanks, Iain, for the comments. So I would like to add that we have bi-weekly meeting going with Parks Canada right now, which their main role is facilitating the conversation. So at this point, as far as we know, they are having conversation with different partners at the same time, and we will be joining together on the same table and discussing further all together. And we definitely keep the Heritage Commission posted on that. But from the other side, they are already aware of cities conversation and in relationship with First Nation that we have. And the whole project looks pretty positive so far, but we still need to wait for the response and for getting any comments and feedback from the other partners.
I have a question.
Thank you.
If I may ask a question, what is going to be the end result of this process? Fort Rod Hill and Discard Island Light are now National Historic Sites. Will they continue to be so? Who will be administering them when this becomes an urban park?
Thanks for that great question. That is actually one of the key subject that we are discussing and will be discussed in the future. And one of the outcome of this process will be the governance model of the national urban parks. I would like to note that they have been working with 6 different national urban park sites, but I would like to say that every single one will be different from the other, and it really depends on all the partners that how they approach the governance model in the future.
Thank you. I might wish to comment. This sounds very much like the process that the provincial government called devolution, when they kind of turned over all the heritage sites in BC to site managers and other things and didn't fund them properly in the end. So I would hate to see that happening to Fort Rod.
And I know that when I through to you, Chair, I've had the same thoughts when I first heard this process and saw the notifications quite some time ago now. And that also crossed my mind as a way of offloading some of those urban adjacent green spaces that would be less encumbered for a national looking after, but to have the locals look after it. So yeah, that's why I'm serious. That's why I'm going to clarify where the City of Colwood sits as a partner. or are we just a facilitator and are we just a stakeholder? Because I mean, this will be something I would seem to think that would, if it gets devolved, like you said, we could very well be, budgeting for land care and maintenance inside that particular space. Well, which is something that the city of Esquimalt does when they lease land from the federal government. They have to abide by certain environmental standards that the feds have, and so some of their park space, which is leased from the D&D, has to meet certain standards. That might be something we might be seeing happening here in Colwood too. So it's a good question. That's why I want to make sure we're a real partner. We're gonna have a real good conversation about that future as well, because other things have been given away in the city of Colwood, and it's costing us some money.
Mr. Chair, if I could jump in. So I'll also add to the presentation that we are in a collaboration agreement with Parks Canada that sees Parks Canada provide us with funding for the work. We don't foresee through this process there being costs for the city of Colwood through the pre-feasibility work. So Parks Canada has been quite generous in terms of supporting the work that's been conducted with them. And, the questions as to what the eventual outcomes may look like and these issues around sort of the more detailed aspects of the program would be best asked of Parks Canada. So we'll work towards bringing a Parks Canada representative to the next update and be better able to address those questions.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just had one quick question. Do we know when this might happen? I mean, I saw the timeline, but there's no time on the timeline. Is this something that might be 10 years from now, 5 years from now? Do you have any indication?
Thanks for the question. From what is proposed so far, it's proposed to be sort of to have that established by 2025, but it really depends on the pace of the conversation that we have, especially through our conversation with Parks Canada so far. We want to make sure that all the partners are completely engaged of the process and any steps that we are taking. So it will depends on the pace and the capacity of all the partners that they are on the table.
Thank you very much.
Just a clarification, Chair.
I'm just one moment, please, Mark.
Sure.
Just one comment to Iain. When we get to the end of the process, will we be able to say no?
Mr. Chair, yes. I mean, the as been outlined, it's intended to be a very collaborative process. The reason that the city is engaged at this point is because there's opportunities to expand the existing national sites and then reconceive them as a shared governance type of protected space. So, we really would be able to determine the future of the lands that we currently control as parks and owned by the city of Colwood in that respect. I certainly, through the work that's the very early stages of the work that's been undertaken so far, Parks Canada has been very, very gracious and collaborative in their approach. And I don't have any concerns at this point in terms of that changing. So certainly, we're going to keep the commission apprised. There's, I think, some fantastic opportunities to enrich and improve our approach to the heritage conservation and education opportunities in and around the lands surrounding Fort Rod Hill and Fisgar Lighthouse. So we want to try to fully explore those opportunities and involve the commission as we move forward.
Thank you. You had another comment, Mark?
Just to address the clerk, Nafiseh, you said a timeline for 2025, but is that for a beginning of the process, if we go back to one of your slides, would that be at the end of the line, or is that somewhere just getting to start to the middle?
Mr. Chair, if I could jump in, I think this is a question that we best put to Parks Canada. We really are working from early stages that I don't believe we have the ability to answer that question effectively.
Thanks, Iain. I would like to add one more note to what Iain mentioned. We ask our partners that at some point when we move forward more, they will co-present with us and they will answer the question that it's related to their roles. And in the meantime, we just have the discussion paper and background there for the National Urban Parks that it's updated last month on National Urban Parks, Parks Canada National Urban Parks project. And it's around like 20 pages that it discuss all the requirements that it needs to be met, that specific national urban parks could be established. So there are some requirements that all the partners that need to meet those to have that clear answer.
Thank you. Anything further on this subject? That takes us to the end of the agenda. I would just like to make one comment prior to adjournment. I hope that sometime during this coming summer that I can put together a presentation of Colwood heritage based upon the Colwood Chronicles and other materials, and take it in a marquee down to the Esquimalt Lagoon and put it up on a Saturday and see how much interest we get from our community.
I would love to see it come to Royal Bay Beach as well.
I'm not sure if I can carry it that far down the hill, thank you.
Oh, come on. You can drive right down. We'll get you a spot.
Okay, we'll try to get it to Royal Beach as well.
That sounds like fun. You'll let us know when that happens?
Yeah, I certainly shall let you know when that happens. Thank you, Mark.
Look forward to it. Just the last part, back to you, the chair. So just for rest of the committee to consider, I'd like to put forward as an agenda suggestion, perhaps, that we do host a meeting of this committee or commission rather, to review what the agenda we've had today and to get more better acquainted with some of our new participants. And I failed to acknowledge my thanks for being reselected to return on this committee. So I appreciate that from the councilors that voted. And yeah, I'd love to propose that we meet sometime at the chair's convenience so that we might just get better acquainted and review some of the outcomes of today's conversation. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. And we can all meet down at Royal Bay on nice Saturday there and sit in the sun and share something. But we would have to first be able to share email addresses.
Hello. Don Lovell, Mr. Chair, Mrs. Chair. Don't have the right lingo yet. But I like the idea of some type of social get together. I think that the Royal Bay Bakery got me very excited, of course. But I thought that would be excellent idea. And I'm quite willing to share my email address with everyone. And I'm not sure that it needs much more formal approval than people just saying that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Don. I would suggest perhaps that the other members contact Iain directly and that they are willing to share, and then Iain can take it from there, covering himself as regards to privacy concerns of Colwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I am available to assist any member of the commission in terms of advancing items that they would like to put on an agenda, that I would coordinate that and connect with you, Mr. Chair, ahead of a meeting, and also sharing of contact information. I should note that an even more effective means might be using our corporate services at colwood.ca email. There's several staff that check that email and can coordinate with me and other staff members as needed. So just highlight those two options.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, perhaps at Stavey Grove, the corporate services can, excuse me, could assist with scheduling. Is that right? For the event they're talking about possibly having, which is, I think, a great idea. Excuse me.
Thank you, Councillor Grove. Yes, certainly. I think if the commission would like to create an event, not a commission meeting, we can certainly help connect each other, the folks that are interested in that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like to see a list of the commission that, like, from today's meeting. I guess we get with the minutes, but is there a copy of that? Would that come forward? Everyone's on the commission, just a simple list of the members, and I suppose the emails could come with that then too. I don't have any problem with it, obviously, but
I can, if you don't mind, through the chair, if there's anyone, I could just ask right now, if there's anyone that's provided us an email that is not comfortable with us sharing it with other members, just let me know now or after the meeting, and I can make note of that. Otherwise, if it's all right, I'll just assume that you're all comfortable with me sharing the email addresses that we have on file to contact you.
perfect. Thank you. I look forward to a little bit of a get together, wherever, whether it's at the beach or the bakery.
Or both.
Yeah, I certainly agree. Seeing no other items on the agenda, I call a motion for adjournment, please.
Councillor Olson, Jenny Seaman. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.